The other day, I posted a video that argued that adding a fourth villager to iron farm clusters would increase efficiency. Some people thought this was an interesting concept, but a large amount of people reacted with, well, Nico, you're kinda dumb. And well, yeah, okay, fair point. I get it, because the main argument against four villagers is that villagers are a pain to work with, and thus it will make the construction of the iron farm more difficult, and it's just better to build more villager clusters as they will increase your iron production more. And that's true and valid. But my question is, does that mean we shouldn't even discuss the possibility of four villager iron farms at all? Or is there the possibility that through discussing this topic, even if it seems impractical, that we may eventually find a better, more practical use for four villagers? Well, in my opinion, the answer is yes. And I came with proof, because that is exactly what happened after the last video was posted. I stumbled upon a discovery that boosts the benefit of using four villagers from a 1 to 4% gain to a much higher efficiency gain. And this change means that the four villager option should at least be discussed as a realistic alternative to boost production in some applications. In addition, I believe this topic is a good place to talk a little bit about innovation in general, as the four villager example is a good way to remind us to stay open-minded and promote innovation. Alright, so let's jump right into it. This video is inspired by MD, who was featured in my last video. After posting that video about a viewer calling me out, he called me out, which I just have to say, bravo. Okay, he really wasn't calling me out. Actually, we just had a really nice discussion about the topic. His main point is what I illustrated before, which is that four villagers only boost the efficiency, say 4% max. So the time and effort is more worth to put into building another villager cluster. This is what I believe most technical Minecraft players will say, and they aren't wrong, and I honestly don't disagree. But I believe there's more nuance to bring to the discussion. If we were talking about purely pushing production for production's sake, then I have no argument. The thing I think we sometimes forget is that Minecraft is a game in which players have different reasons for playing. And while most of the viewers of this video are probably more interested in the technical side of Minecraft, there's a much larger group of people who play more casually. So, for example, if I have a nice base built or something underground, etc., and my space is limited, I may not have the option to build another villager cluster. So if I want to increase iron production, I need to push efficiency per villager cluster. Another example is, say if I am building my iron farm, it's all done, I populated my villagers via minecart and activator rail, but wait, I bred a lot more villagers in preparation for my trading hall. So adding a fourth villager to this farm will consist of pressing one button and adding a bed. Then the question is, why not? So you see what I mean? If you watched my last video and took away that I was suggesting a fourth villager for every situation, then I'm sorry that I was not clear and misled you. It is not a copy-paste every farm solution, but is a nuanced discussion and potential option that can benefit very particular situations. And in the end, if the solution to every question about how to increase iron farms production is more villager cells, then isn't that honestly just terribly boring? I mean, why not at least explore other avenues? So what does this have to do with innovation? Well, a good way to talk about this is to relate it to my day job as an engineer. In my field, there is absolutely no lack of good, great, and excellent technical engineers. What there does tend to be a lack of are people who are willing to ask stupid questions. Okay, you might be thinking, I don't want people who say, build bridges, being dumb. And you're right. Being an engineer, you first and foremost have to be technically correct. But once you have that, you can maybe bring even more to the table. Another way to phrase asking stupid questions is to say challenging assumptions and perspectives. Asking questions and exploring paths that lead nowhere is one of the key ways that we discover opportunities that we never even expected. This is difficult because you risk looking stupid when the questions you ask go nowhere. But when you strike gold, it can really pay off. So the real point of my last video was not to suggest a fourth villager in every situation, but instead to promote this idea of continuing to ask questions and challenge assumptions, because that's how we grow as a community. What is a little bit funny is that in making a video about asking silly questions, I accidentally stumbled upon a discovery that, at least in a small part, proves the entire point about using potentially small impact or even useless topics to discover more useful phenomena. If you aren't aware, 1.19 nerfed iron farms. Basically, in 1.18 versions and below, when the golem last seen timer gets to 0, the spawn attempt timer will also hit 0 and a golem will spawn as long as all other conditions are met. In 1.19 versions, this does not happen. When the golem last seen timer hits 0, the villagers wait until the next spawn attempt to spawn a golem. If you want to see all the details, then check out the video I made about the bug. So we can clearly see the phenomenon happening here. The yellow spawn attempt timer indicates that the last spawn attempt failed despite being potentially valid to spawn. But what happens when we add a fourth villager? Now we have converted back to 1.18 spawn mechanics, where the villagers spawn directly after the last seen golem countdown is finished. Or well, do we? Well, when I first was playing this video, I thought that the fourth villager completely counteracts the nerf. But upon further investigation, I realized that something really weird happens. Basically, when we start scaring, the golem will spawn on the first attempt, like usual for both 1.18 and 1.19. For the second attempt, we see that again, the golem spawns like normal 1.18 mechanics, i.e. the fourth villager counteracts the nerf. The weird part is the third attempt. Here we see the nerf again. The villagers wait an additional spawn attempt before spawning the golem. This is really strange. From here on out, the villagers alternate between spawning the golem directly and waiting an additional 10 seconds. So why is this happening? Honestly, I don't really know. It's a very strange dynamic. I originally thought that it was because the villager who was summoning the golem was quote unquote deactivated for the next spawn in 1.19, and that the fourth villager would take their place to fulfill the spawning requirements. But it's clear that this is not the case. Even if you add more villagers, the same phenomenon occurs. I'm still under the impression that the bug has something to do with the calculation order, as speculated in the Iron Farm nerf video, but I will leave it for the people who know much more about this than I do. So back to the practical matters. What does this mean for the viability of using 4 villagers? Well, since in 1.19, every other golem will have a 35-second time between spawn, the average time between spawns will be 32.5 seconds when using 4 villagers. From 35 to 32.5, we achieve a little less than a 8% efficiency gain. So this boost will not only double the maximum benefit of the fourth villager, but the gain should be about 8% for all iron farms in 1.19 because it's counteracting the 1.19 bug. Okay, maybe 8% doesn't convince you still. That's only 127 ingots per hour for a 4-pod farm. But I believe it at least brings the benefit of 4 villagers into discussion a little bit more, at least for 1.19. To illustrate and use a kind of stupid argument, this farm is kind of ugly and is probably more work than just adding 4 more villagers. Sure, an additional pod has more production, but maybe I'm okay with 4 pods, and 2 stacks an hour more sounds pretty good to me. At the end of the day though, learning for learning's sake is what I believe is the most important. Even if you stick with 3 villager clusters for all your farms, at least you may have learned a little bit more about the dynamics, and that in itself is very valuable. I again want to thank MD for being such an amazing guy and having a really nice conversation. Check out his YouTube channel and consider subscribing. He's a really talented and cool guy. But that's gonna do it for this video. So thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.